All right, welcome everyone to Thrive with Ananka, the best podcast for 20-year-olds that want to succeed, face their struggles, and just find daily inspiration from like-minded people and individuals that come onto this episode. Today we have a special guest. This is Zoe, a
What's
really good
up?
friend of mine. Okay, kind of give your background, your age, what do you do?
Yeah, so my name's Zoe. I feel like I'm doing one of those things, when you start school and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, everybody go around. My name's Zoe. I'm 26. I just turned 26 in February. I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology this past August of 24. And I'm out in the real world now in terms of, trying to find a job and do something with my career, with my degree.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm working part-time as a coach. And then I'm also working part-time as like a receptionist at a psychology firm. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad I got that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's super awesome. I'm so excited to have Zoe on just because we tried to do it last week and then we had to reschedule, but I'm super happy that she's here because I feel like everybody that comes here has inspiring stories to share.
Mm-hmm.
Even if like sometimes like people don't think that they have something good to share, everyone has something good to share regardless. So if you're figuring things out or need that extra push in your life, today this is the podcast for you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe on every platform that we post. And yeah, it's time to thrive. It's Thriving with Ananka, and let's get into it. So, early life and influence, Zoe. Kind of bring it, take it back to me when you were, I guess, your childhood. Like, what was, probably, the fondest memory that you've had? And what kind of, I guess, helped you, maybe how it shaped your life today, how you kind of see things differently in terms of that?
Yeah, so early childhood, early life, how far back are we talking?
Mm, Usually I always talk about, maybe, middle school.
Middle school? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I always say that eighth grade was my favorite year because eighth grade was when you were a senior basically of middle school because it's your last year and it's a big deal going on to high school and everything.
Yeah.
And I just remember that year in particular was great for me. I had so many friends. I had a friend group. My grades were good. I was thriving. I even had a boyfriend and there was a love triangle going on. There was all that fun drama that kind of happens in middle school. Yeah. And I don't know, but I would consider that kind of a defining moment in my life just because it was just so fun. And I think that was the first time, in my life where I've had that kind of experience where I have all these friends and I'm doing well in school and I have a boyfriend for the first time. You have all these firsts and it was just it was a good time in my life and I definitely look back on that.
Yeah, honestly, because I also say the same thing. Because eighth grade, I think it's that peak age. Because you're what I think
You're 13, you just got to your teens, 13,
yeah,
14, yeah,
reaching 15. Then you're oh my gosh, it's the last year, and it's all the best things are happening. And sometimes I miss that time.
Yeah, no, me
I
too,
miss
for
it because
sure.
you didn't have those responsibilities, and life was very nostalgic.
Yes.
When I think of eighth grade, I think of what's that song? Somewhere by Calvin Harris.
Oh, yes.
It really gives
I got
middle
you,
school
yeah.
vibes. Yeah, yeah.
With and I remember Snapchat was so big at that time too, and everybody's doing the dog filter, with the tongue and the ears. Yeah, no, I will always remember that for sure. Yeah.
Okay, very nice. And I kind of want to also I don't know if middle school is kind of happened with you too. In middle school, even when life was really great, do you feel also there's kind of some hard or interesting times as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's obviously a big change that you're going through in middle school. That's why everybody kind of calls it, an awkward time. And, you're moody and you got all these hormones and all these changes are happening to your body and that kind of thing. So it was also about kind of finding your identity in a way. You don't really know who you are then. And it was especially, I would say, difficult for me because my parents were separating and getting divorced during that time. So I was living in Tampa with my mom and my dad was living about half an hour away, but I just remember that also not being the greatest time. So it's interesting how your brain also chooses to kind of remember the good times and you don't remember so many of the bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it was nothing awful. Like, I didn't have like a bad childhood or anything like that. Like, both of my parents are great. But yeah, there's definitely some parts that, aren't so good. And I think that's a mutual experience shared between
Mm-hmm.
everyone. So,
Yeah.
what
I
about
mean,
you?
I kind of the thing is like sometimes like I always forget like memories and like when I'm younger, if that makes sense.
Yeah, me too.
Because
Because
like
that's why I
yeah,
asked you that too. Because
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, I don't really like remember much. Like, I
yeah.
do, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, how far are we going back? Because I don't really
Yeah,
know if I have much
yeah.
to
It's
talk
so
about.
strange though because it's like, oh, like I remember these things, but then I'm like I like talk with my mom,
Hmm.
and she's like, oh, remember this when you were like at this age, and I'm like, I don't remember. Sometimes it kind of makes me a little like sad because I'm like, I can't
Right.
remember like what I did at 8 years old or what I
Right.
did like at 12 because like I feel like so much has happened like I guess us being kids that like we've already created new memories as we get older,
Right.
so it like kind of takes over like the old ones that we used to have.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. For
It's
sure.
so strange though, because I'm like, oh, like I remember I did this, and like I don't know if it happens to you, but sometimes like when I smell something,
Yes, that happens
like
to me. Yeah.
immediately I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, like I remember I was on the street at this time, and
Yeah.
like you know what I mean?
Yeah. It is
Yeah,
interesting. And like sometimes the time of year it will get me
yeah,
like feeling a certain type of way too.
yeah,
Like I know when it gets colder and it's like more wintry, like
yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like different. And not
Mm-hmm.
in like a bad or a good way, just like different. Like I notice it that it's
Mm-hmm.
different.
Do you feel like sometimes, like for example, like Christmas, like I feel very like I feel like kind of like a child. Like I feel like more like I guess like it's more sentimental
Right.
around that time of the year because it really feels like you can kind of let out like your inner kid.
Right.
Do you feel like you've always like had your inner kid, or there was times in your life where you kind of like lost that touch?
Um, I would say I've always had my inner kid. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
26, but I have like a baby face, so I look younger, and I
Mm-hmm.
always get like not made fun of, but I always get kind of like teased on, like, "Oh, Zoe, like you're so young."
Mm-hmm.
Like I get carded everywhere I go, like so. And I'm really good with kids, and I love kids,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's because I still have that sense of like childlike goofiness
Mm-hmm.
that they love me too, because
Yeah.
I'm like almost like they're equal sometimes, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can joke around with them and I can be playful, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that really lends to that. And just like that's also my personality. Like
Yeah.
I'm not a super serious person,
Mm-hmm.
but like I can be serious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I think, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like also because I know for me like I'm also not a serious person. It's really hard for me to be serious
Right.
sometimes
No, me
because
too.
I'm
Me
just like
too.
I like sometimes like if it's like conversations and I'm like catching myself like trying to laugh around like because like I just can't find myself being like living my life in like a serious mode.
Hmm.
But like, do you feel like also that like you live your life like how your personality is? Like it's very like goofy, very out and about, very like kind of like golden retriever. Because you
Yeah.
kind of give me golden retriever vibes. Like you're
I
always like cheeky smile, always like being out and about, like spreading positivity. I feel like I don't know, like do you feel like you should be living your life that way, obviously.
First of all, thank you.
Of
I
course,
appreciate
of
that. I
course.
have gotten like the golden retriever thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't know. I think I've also like struggled with anxiety all of my life
Mm-hmm.
too. Anxiety, depression. I have OCD as well, and I've gotten help with it all my life. Thankfully, my parents have been very supportive. But I'm gonna like say something here, but like it's not like a secret, but a lot of the times why I'm so like happy, smiley, and like on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of my way of coping with how I feel, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So like if I am feeling kind of like anxious, I'll cope with it by putting like kind of like a mask on, like
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want anybody to know that I'm feeling that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so
Mm-hmm.
like that's not to say that I'm not a happy person. Like I
Yeah.
consider myself a happy person, but like a lot of the times I do present that way because I am so anxious and nervous and
Mm-hmm.
all of those things.
Yeah.
So
Do you feel like it's gotten like a lot better?
I think me as a person, like coping with it, I've got a lot better
Mm-hmm.
just because my parents have been so supportive, and I've seen like so many therapists since like the
Yeah.
time I was like 7. Like I've always seen a therapist. So I've I've gotten a lot of therapy, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of at the point where I know how to handle a lot of things, and There's not much I can't handle, but everybody needs support every now and again, and I think mental health is extremely important. Mental health is part of your health, and unfortunately, I think it gets put second or further down on the line. Even me sometimes. Like, sometimes I won't take my mental health as seriously as if I have a cold. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know when I'm having like a bad episode or a bad day that I should be like journaling, or I should do yoga, or I should work out, and I should, like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but you don't always do those. But that's okay. Like, we're just human. Like, nobody's perfect. We're all just trying to like survive the day. We're all just trying to survive life. Like, one of the things I've been trying to do lately too is just like put everything into perspective. Like, this isn't to say that people, you're not going through a hard time and you're not struggling, but like, nothing is that deep. Like, you can freak out for a bit, but at a certain point, like, you gotta like look at it from a different perspective, or else you're just gonna keep spiraling. You're gonna keep going down that hole, and that's just not serving you, like, at all. And so once you can kind of pull back and look at it, like, just from farther back, it's easier to see that, like, okay, this is what's happening. There is a solution to that problem. I just have to I have to stop and think and not let my brain get so flooded for like just a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, like, even now, like, it's so strange because, like, I know with everyone, really, like, I find a really hard time, like, putting this away. Like, it's very hard to, like, the thing is, like, we have 24 hours in the day, but, like, I don't give myself 10 minutes to, like, relax, because, like, I'm always, like, on the go, and I'm like, oh, I can just do it later, because, like, I feel like procrastination, we all do it, and I feel like we do it too much to where, like, we're, like what you were saying, like, putting our mental health last, and then, like, you get to a point in your life where you're, like, burnt out, you're either dealing with depression, anxiety, you're just, like, completely, like, you're crashing out, and, like, sometimes you're like, okay, well, what can I do? But I feel like sometimes, like, you're so far into it that, like, you kind of have to, like, work 10 times harder to get back, you know what I mean? Because sometimes, like, I find myself, like, oh, yeah, I can use, like, next week, whatever, and I'm always, like, saying that, and then when I get to the moment where I crash out, I'm like, okay, well, like, to prevent this, like, instead of me exploding, I could have done better if I had, like, given myself 5 minutes to, like, give myself the time to, like, take care of my mental health, like, even if it's, like, taking a walk, or, like, going for a jog, or, like, getting your favorite snack, whatever, like, I feel like we all need to do it, like, more, because I feel like, especially, like, in the world we live in, like, there's a lot of things going on, and, like, obviously, like, it's really hard to not ignore it, because there's so much happening, and, like, not even just in the world, like, in our jobs, our relationships, friendships, so it's, like, there's, like, things, like, shooting left and right, and so it's really hard to just be like, oh, and just, like, ignore it. So I've done that before, and, like, obviously it's not good. So
I mean, ignorant people do seem to be more happy, though, so I don't know, like, but I do know what you mean, and I remember I took a public health class my junior year. I had a great teacher. It was online, and I still loved it. Her lectures and everything were great, and I also just found it inherently interesting. And a lot about public health is those preventative measures, like macro level, like preventative measures, and just the same, like, this is like a very small example, but, like, if you eat right, you'll feel better, you'll overall be healthier. Do you know what I mean? Like, preventative things that can domino effect into, potentially good things, just as bad things domino effect into even worse bad things. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. If you do just take the time to journal for 5 minutes, like, that is a preventative measure in my brain. Like, that's a self-help. Like, you're doing something to prevent a crash out. You know what I mean? Just like when you get up, or when you're having, like, all these thoughts and you just can't stop, like, just journaling it out will probably make you feel better. And yet sometimes we just, like, I know I don't do it. And then, like, once it goes on for a while and something happens, like my 13th reason happens, and I crash out and I'm, like, freaking out, that's when I start to journal. But maybe my freak out wouldn't have been so bad if I had, like, just been journaling a little bit every day. And it seems so simple, and I'm pretty sure it's just because I don't have a lot of discipline that I'm not doing it, but I know it would help me. So
I agree, because I don't know if you read the book Atomic Habits, where like it talks about like eliminating your bad habits and the good ones, and that's actually like a perfect example. Like, let's say for example, like you don't have time in the day at all to film anything. What you can do is you would just like wake up in the morning. Okay, I'm gonna eat breakfast while I read like 10 minutes of this book,
right.
or like I'm gonna before I go to bed, or I don't know, like on my walk, I'm listening to like a mental health podcast. Like sometimes, like when I do that, I feel so much better because like, oh, I'm getting my walk in, and I'm also like getting my mental health podcast, and it's like a double win. And I feel like just kind of setting those like literally 5 minutes, because I feel like everyone's like, oh, I don't have time, or I didn't, it's like, no, you didn't make the time.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't make the time. You weren't intentional about it.
Yeah, because I mean, you make time for other things, but like I said, like we always put everything first before like our mental health, which is like horrible. That's why there's burnout, and then people are like, stressed out, or like they don't have happy lives, because like it's literally like legitimately like your mental health. Like they always say, like if your mind isn't right, like everything else fails.
Yeah.
So
for sure. And I think, would you agree that a lot of that is because of like society and the ways that we like feel pushed?
Yeah, like hustle culture.
Yeah.
Oh my God, don't even get me started. I literally, because for example, like this podcast, I started doing this like a year and a half ago, but I stopped within like 3 months.
I noticed that because I went to your Spotify and I like saw that you were doing these in like earlier
2023.
Earlier a couple years ago or whatever.
Like about like almost 2 years ago.
And there was like a lot. It was a lot.
But the thing is, like, I was so obsessed with. Because I feel like the thing is, like, it's really important to love your craft, because like if you don't love what you do, then like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes like we work and like there's things that we don't love to do. Yeah, we work, whatever. But then there's times where like you find your passion. Yeah. But then your passion begins to feel like, oh, I have to do it because I have to. Whereas like I want it to be like, oh, like I want to film this because I want to.
Right.
Like right now, like I want to do this because like I love it. You know what I mean? But there's times where it felt like, oh, I have to get up and do this. I have to film this.
Right.
And it's like you've already lost the love for it.
Exactly.
And now you're like forcing yourself to, have a persona, or force yourself to like be this person, do this because you have to do it. And that's what happened. Like I stopped having that passion, and like I gave myself a year and a half to like figure things out, because I'm like, okay, like, because like on social media, like on Instagram, it's like, oh, like you have to like work 24 hours a day, and like if like you have to like kill yourself and like things like that, like you have to like bust your ass to do this, and like realistically, like you just cannot live your life like that.
No,
you just I mean,
it's not sustainable.
It's just not, like, because they're like, oh, like this person did it, but I'm like, this person has different goals than you have, or this person has a different schedule than you have, or like their timeline is different. And so I always tell people, like on this like podcast in general, and even my friends, I always tell them like, your timeline is different than everybody else's. Like I could probably have a faster result than you can, but it's because my goal is different than yours.
Right.
But it doesn't matter if our goals are different. Like we're still going to succeed either way. So I feel like that's kind of like that. So, like especially social media is always like, yeah, you have to like be on grind mode and like the winter arc. And I'm just like, yeah, but then like you feel great, but then you're like, okay, I achieved this. Now what's next? Like, what do I do?
Right.
You already achieved it. Now you feel like burnt out. You feel drained. You're not satisfied anymore because like it's gone. You know what I mean?
So are you saying like, it sounds like you're talking about more of achieving that end result instead of like enjoying
the process,
the journey and the process. And I have always struggled with that because I love that end goal. Like that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
But like just thinking about what it takes to get there, I'm like, oh,
because you have to like cross all these like valleys, and like you have
to be uncomfortable. You have to put yourself out there. You got to try new things. You have to fail, and that like. That just, you know what I mean? Just even thinking about it, it doesn't even make me want to do it, but I know I want that end goal.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why people don't get to where they need to be, because they're like so focused, like for example, like get rich quick type things, and people are so focused on short term, they don't focus on the long term. Like for example, like I'm filming this podcast right now, maybe I might get like 100 views. Okay, it's better than nothing,
right? But
if you're consistent, like every single day, and you're like obviously dedicating time to like, oh, I can spend 2 hours doing this. Like don't spend the full day, like, because obviously you're gonna like burn out, but like spend 2 hours doing this, like learning how to plant something, or learning how to cook something, and like every single day you put a little bit of time into it, you're gonna get to where you need to be. But I feel like we're so focused on like, oh, I want to be that shredded guy, but like he probably spent 10 years looking like that.
Right.
I think we're just so obsessed with short term And then we work out for a week and they're like, oh shit, I don't have abs yet.
Right.
Well, yeah, because it's only been a week, you know. And then you go back to your bad habits, you go back to your bad routines, and you complain all your life like, well, that's not fair, I did this, yeah, for like a day, you know what I mean? So I feel like that's kind of like the issues now. So
I definitely agree with that, and that is something I've always struggled with too. And I don't do it, but I know the thing that you're supposed to do is set like small little goals for yourself. So then every day it kind of feels like you're achieving, you know, something. Even if it is that small goal, you're still achieving something. And it's those tiny little goals that obviously make up to the big one. So in theory, yes, like I want to do that, but like it's so hard. Like honestly, I don't know if it's like me and just discipline wise or like or what, but that is definitely, those good habits is something that I struggle with, you know, like continuing them. Like I haven't been to the gym since last year. It's March. And I like every day I tell myself too, like I'm gonna go today, I'm gonna go today, I'm gonna go today. Like I really want to go today. I never go.
I always say like kind of figure out your drive, like your why. Same thing like with your goals, like, oh, like my why is this, so I want to build this. I think like for me personally, like I get like a whiteboard and I write down, okay, where do I see myself in a month? Whether it's like fitness wise, okay, even if it's like 2 times at the gym a week, that's better than like not going at all. Even if you spend like whatever 10 minutes on the Stairmaster, it's still better than just being at home. So I think it's always like not going full in and be like, okay, 6 days a week I'm gonna work out, because then like you have your work or you have other things, or, you know, you have plans with like your partner or family. So it's just like I feel like everyone's so obsessed with trying to fit everything into one day that like you end up doing just 1 out of the 10 things you have to do.
And then you feel bad.
And then you're like, oh my god, like, and then you tear yourself down. Then it's like that constant like mental thing where it's like, oh, like why couldn't I do this? Like, oh my gosh, because I think also a problem is like we're so like not nice to ourselves. So when we like mess up on something or we didn't get this done, it's just like you tear yourself down, and it's like also like the cause of like that like negative mental health. It's just like, why are you being mad at yourself that you didn't do something? Like it's fine, like you probably had to do this or something came up. Like every day is a different day, so don't expect to like finish everything in one day. But I think kind of like to what you were saying, going back because I went off track, but like I think what I do personally is I get a little sticky note or like a little whiteboard or whatever on my phone, and I type like, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym for 20 minutes and I'm gonna do arm day, you know. And I like sometimes like I'm not even in the mood to work out, but I'm like, okay, Nanka, but like where do you want to be the next couple of months? Like come on, like give it just 20 minutes, you know. And then sometimes I'm usually there for an hour because I'm already obsessed with like, oh, like I look great, like pump, and then like you already feel so good that you're gonna put more time into like building your body. And same thing with like, you know, okay, like I can go for a walk around my apartment complex. Okay, it's fine. Like it's nice out. Or if not, like I'm just going to do some yoga. And yoga's usually just like 10 minutes. Like I feel like little things like that start to like build this like that consistent habit to where like, oh, like you wake up and you're like, oh yeah, okay, today's gym day. I'm going to go to the gym. So I think it's just starting out with like what you want to do, whether it's like, okay, like I'm free in the evenings. I'm going to go to the gym for like 15 minutes. And then next week is like 30. And then next month is 45. And then just kind of,
I think too, and I don't know, let me know if you go through this, but like sometimes I am very hard on myself, like you said, but sometimes I also feel like I'm too like easy on myself. Like like in moments, like I give myself too much grace. Like I flip it around sometimes and I'm like, I really need to like eat healthy, but then I'm like, but Chick-fil-A sounds so good right now. Like I only live once, like I need to get Chick-fil-A. So like sometimes I'm like too easy on myself. Like, no, you don't need to get Chick-fil-A. You could spend a little bit extra time and go get like chicken and go grill it or bake it or whatever. Like, so sometimes I need to be a little bit more hard on myself, like in those types of ways, because like it does come down to like a little bit of laziness, like on my part. Like it is easier to go get Chick-fil-A.
It is. I think I kind of agree with what you were saying earlier. Like sometimes like everything is not that deep, because sometimes I'm like, oh, like I had my meal prep, and then I'm like, I kind of want like a donut. And it's just like, okay, like I eat a donut and then I'm like, oh, I feel like shit. But it's just like, enjoy yourself. Like life is about enjoying. And like if eat I don't know, chicken nugget platter and you feel like shit, like, oh well, you ate it already, like you got it done. You know what I mean? Like it happened.
And it was good.
You can't like regurgitate it back. Like
Right,
you've already
right.
digested it, it's whatever. And I
Right.
feel like sometimes it's like we're so strict on ourselves,
Yeah.
and like that's just not okay. Like,
Okay,
like even
interesting.
yeah, because sometimes
turned
like
it around.
yeah, because sometimes like I'm really strict with like eating. Then I'm like, this is not sustainable at all. Like I'm not gonna eat like rice and grass for the rest of my life. Like I want to, you know, get creative. Like I want to go out and get myself a burrito. Like, you know, it's just like having that healthy balance, whether it's like with your eating, with work, relationships. Like it's so important to have like that balance, because like we're so restrictive with a lot of things, and like that causes that, you know, those issues over time. You know, so like sometimes I'm like, fuck it, I want Chipotle, I'm gonna get Chipotle. Or I want crumble, I'm gonna get crumble. Oh, well, I ate it. I'm not gonna like go run after, because I had that problem where like I would eat like a donut and then I would go on the treadmill after and try to burn it off.
Oh,
and that's not good. It's
No,
really
it's
not
not.
good.
Yeah.
And that like causes like, because I had a eating disorder in high school.
Okay.
And like I would
didn't know
eat,
that.
yeah, I would eat like a lot one day,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't eat anything for the next 3 days.
Like on purpose.
Yeah, because I felt bad. I'm like, oh, I ate so much. Like, and I would like literally chew gum and like drink water and like eat
Wow.
apples. And
Dude, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't really share it a lot, but it was horrible, because like everyone's like, oh my gosh, you look so great, but I'm like, I feel horrible. Like
Right.
like, you know what I mean? Because people are like, oh my god, like you look incredible, but I was like dead inside. I couldn't even like lift anything because I was so weak. And it's just like, I feel like just being so restrictive on yourself is just not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to make you feel better. So yeah, it was not a happy. I mean, now I eat, like, you know, I mean, I eat a lot, but like I'm happy because it makes me happy. I feel great. That's healthy.
Right.
Like I feel like people are so hard on themselves. Like, oh, well, they're doing it, and like, you know, social media, it shows that, but I'm like, half that stuff is like bullshit.
Yeah.
Like you eat how you want to
It
eat.
is.
You live your life how you want to live it. Like obviously with good intentions, but live it how you want to live. Like don't try to like copy and paste someone's life to yours, because it's not going to be sustainable for a long time.
Yeah,
So.
and it's not the same. And I think we've talked a lot about, you've mentioned a lot of like comparing yourself to others.
Yeah.
And while I think we all know that it isn't great for us and it doesn't serve us, it is kind of inevitable. Like we all do it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's, I don't know. I think it's that like mutual understanding that we all do it. And again, like putting things into perspective. Like, you see somebody on Instagram, like doing all these things. You wish you could be them. You wish you could look like them. You wish they, you know, but you're literally only seeing like what they want you to see. Yeah. You know, so like you can't compare yourself to that. It doesn't make any sense to, because you have no idea what's going on inside their head. You have no idea what's going on in, like in their personal life, you know? Yeah. So like I've been trying to like remember that more, because I have always struggled with like I'm 26. I don't look 26. I don't feel 26, but I'm 26. Yeah. And I wish I was at a different place in my life. Like I really do, but I also know that like everything happens for a reason, and I'm on this path I'm on this journey that I'm on, because this is just how my life is going. You know what I mean? Like I don't have like a bad life, but you know, I wish I was farther along in school. You know, like I wish I had my master's or was almost done with my master's at 26. I wish I led a little bit more of like a grown-up life. But like, so sometimes I'll get down on myself, but then I'll put it into perspective and I'm like, hold on just a second. Yeah. I'm 26 years old. Like, I'm still young. Like, it's not that deep. Like, I don't need to be fast forwarding my life. Like, I have plenty of time to be stressed out about money. I have plenty of time to be stressed out about my job. Like, you have plenty of time. Like, genuinely, actually. And, like, I think we forget that. Yeah. That we do have time.
Like, I agree. I mean, like, I think, because I've been, like, struggling with that recently, actually. Okay. And I kind of also want to get into, like, some of the struggles we've been struggling with, whether it was this year or a couple years ago. But, like, it's so interesting because, like, we're so obsessed with, like, the work culture, you know, just, like, work, but then you work your life away, then you realize how much time you've, like, wasted, you know? And I think, like, I also have a problem with, like, the comparison, like, oh, like, this person looks so jacked, and I'm like, oh, like, you know, and I kind of feel like it's almost like I'm allowing myself to tear myself down when, like, you should be proud of yourself. Like, you're going to the gym every day. Okay, what? Like, so what? You know, I have, like, that bad habit of, like, comparing myself, like, to certain things. Because, like, you know, you see on, like, Instagram, like, I make $10,000 a month. And I'm just like, okay, are you either going to brag about it or are you going to like actually show me? Because like, you know what I mean? Because I want you to actually show me. You know what I mean? But it's like, there's so much like, yeah, I'm just like, show me. If you make, like, show me that you actually make 10K a month consistently. Show me what you do. Like, if you want to help people out, help them out.
Right.
Like, if I made 15K a month doing something, I would want to help people around me make the same. Like, I would help you. I would help my girlfriend. I would help my mom, everybody. I'd be like, yeah, like, get on this right now. Let's make some money. Let's retire. Instead of like flexing like everything and then like not helping anybody or like, you know what I mean? Because like I see all people like 18-year-olds like, oh, I make 100K a month doing drop shipping, and I'm like, do you actually make that money drop shipping though?
No,
like maybe it's
not.
like something else. Like I'm just like, bro, I'm so tired of people like shoving their like stuff in our faces, because sometimes I feel type of way because I'm like, oh, like dang, he's 18, I'm like 22, like what the fuck, like. But then I'm like, you know what, like that worked for him, okay, whatever, maybe it's not even all real money, who cares? But like, I think it's so important to just like trust the process and just like trust yourself, because sometimes we're always like doubting like, oh, like should I have like chosen this route, or hey, like am I doing something wrong? Like, did I like go the right route? Like, but it's just like there's really no right route.
No,
I like figured that out like 2 years ago. Like, first of all, like, I didn't even know I was going to do this 2 years ago. Like, I didn't know until like it happened. You know what I mean? It's just like you try things and it doesn't work out. Okay, whatever, it doesn't work out. You fail. Okay, whatever. It's humbling. Yeah, we don't like to fail, but like you learn from the things that you fail. You know, so I think it's really just a learning process and just like loving the process and what you're learning, because like ultimately, like I think you become, I guess, like a better version of yourself throughout that process. And I've learned so many things, like, you know what I mean? I don't know if this happened to you, kind of like reverting a little bit from this topic, but like when you're younger, obviously, like, you know, you're kind of immature, like it's high school and you're kind of like fucking around.
You're supposed to be, though.
Yeah, and it's just like you're at that age and you can't expect somebody to be like 15, like speaking like a presidential like candidate, like, you know what I mean, and like knowing all the laws of like Florida, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, oh, well, you're like 18, like you should know by now. Like, no, I don't know. I'm 18, or no, I don't know how to file my taxes, and I'm 22, and I'll say it, guys, I don't know how to file my taxes, and I have someone do it for me, whatever, like, you know what I mean? Or I don't even know like half the stuff, like, but it's just like everyone expects you to know everything, and they have all these expectations. Don't have people expect shit from you,
right?
Like, you don't have to like prove shit to anyone.
No,
like
don't.
Just live by what you believe in and just follow it, you know? You don't have to like know A to Z because they're telling you to do this. Like, no, just like you learn as you go. And I think that's like the process, really. I don't know if that's the same thing with you.
It is, for sure. And I feel like it is really scary to fail, but it is also necessary, because like it's a very like trite statement, I think, is what it's called. But like, fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. Damn. Oh, just like that, if you're not trying, or if you're not failing, then you're not trying.
Yeah.
Or if you're not failing, you're never gonna like succeed. Like those types of statements. But it is really true, because like if you're not trying and you're not taking risks and you're not putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, you're not growing. And even though those things can kind of suck, like nobody likes being uncomfortable. It's not exactly, you know, uncomfortable to take a risk, but like unfortunately those are the things that you have to do to get anywhere in life. You know?
I agree.
So my parents did a good job of pushing me very hard throughout my life, like elementary school on. Like I was like put in gifted, like I had to take all these tests to get into gifted. Like I was just on the cusp of being gifted. Okay. So like I was like the bottom half of the gifted class. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like the smartest kid in the class, but I was smart enough to be in the class. But I still really struggled. Like my peers would be like getting all of these science and math things like so easy, and yet I had to come early to school to get tutoring, or stay later to get tutoring because I couldn't grasp the concept. And I've been like that my whole life. It does take me like longer to learn things and regurgitate things, and just like understand things in general. And that's always been so frustrating, because I'm like, how come everybody else is doing it way faster than me? Like, how do you guys get this by now? Like, because I don't. And I was very pushed throughout my whole life academically, and I was surrounded by my peers who also had people who pushed. So it was very competitive in that way.
Yeah.
And I was always kind of at the bottom of all that. Like, I wasn't the smartest kid in the class, so it would feel like you're behind a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And while it probably wasn't the greatest time, you know, being pushed that hard and having to work so hard and everything, it does make me realize now when I'm older that, like, I'm very glad that my parents did that, because they put me into those uncomfortable positions, and they pushed me. And even though it was really uncomfortable, I'm kind of able to do that now myself, which I think is like a very important thing to have. Because again, if you're not pushing yourself, if you're not putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, you're never going to like find anything out about yourself either. Like, you're never going to grow. You're never going to progress. So I think that's super important as well.
For sure. I mean, kind of like, I know we've been talking about like everything, but I kind of wanted to talk about like some of the struggles you've been facing these last couple months, because I know it's only been like 2025, like 3 months. So I feel like there's been so much stuff that's happened these last 3 months, and I'm like, oh my god, like, can we like get something good? Like, you know what I mean? There's been so much stuff, whether it's like things like around the world that are happening, and just like within our own lives, the job market, horrible, everything. So I kind of wanted to ask you, like, what are a couple of things that you find yourself struggling with right now?
Money. Really struggling with money, and I think a lot of people are. You're overworked and you're underpaid, you know, and unfortunately that's what's happening now in life. There's a big divide in that way. You know, the rich are getting richer and the poor is getting poorer. We can steer off of politics now, but that is a fact. So, and for the first time in my life, I just moved out like almost a year ago for the first time ever. I got 25. And I've never had to worry about paying rent. And I've never had to worry about buying my own groceries and my own gas and figuring out how to budget all of that. And when things go wrong in your apartment, you have to call maintenance. You know, just like all these things that you kind of learn as you go, because you never really get taught those things. But for me, it happened kind of later in life, I would say, because I was 25 when I moved out. That's a little bit later. And for the first time in my life, I was learning all these new things, going through all these new things, having to worry about money, and that has been a big stressor. And like I said, unfortunately, a lot of people are going through that. And I've talked about it with my therapist, and there actually is something called like money anxiety, I think. Like, it's like a real thing. And it's not like in the DSM or anything, but it's like a sub-diagnosis or whatever. And, you know, it's a real thing. Like, and I didn't know that. So when we were like talking about it, it was kind of like validating. I was like, oh, okay. Like, it's nice to kind of put a label on things because they don't seem as scary. So just also know that like other people are going through it too. And it's like a thing. And like, unfortunately, I think everybody kind of goes through it at some part of their life, and, you know, multiple, you know, parts of their life. So that has definitely been a struggle. Well, what about you? I'll think of another one, but
honestly, okay, so like, I haven't shared this before ever.
Okay.
But I do want to share it because like, I honestly, it was really humbling.
Okay.
And like, my girlfriend's the only one that knows it, because like, even like, I felt kind of like embarrassed to tell her.
Okay.
So like, this was after our trip from Boston.
Okay.
Which was really fun, December. Obviously, like, when I was working with like Diego and like all the soccer stuff, it got really slow because it's December, and I'm like, shit, like, I got like half my hours cut. So like, I got bills to pay, like, you know. So I'm just like, I was really concerned about that, and like all my internships had ended. So I'm just like, okay, well, like, I have basically no money. Like, what do I do? So I'm like, okay, well, you know me. I'm gonna like do whatever I need to do to make my money.
Right.
So I was doing like, I've never done Uber before, like, ever. I was doing Uber Eats and like Instacart every single Saturday and Sunday the entire day.
Good for you.
Because I'm just like, I could just sit here and just complain, but I'm just wasting time. Like, I need to like get my ass up. Okay, I know it sucks, but like, I don't want to do it, but I have to do it because like, who else is gonna pay for my bills? Not my parents. I'm not gonna make them money out of their wallet to pay for me. Like, they already pay for rent anyway. Like, you know, so I'm okay. So every weekend I would go. Saturday, Sunday. Obviously December was really slow. Like the last 3 weeks of December, I was Uber Eats, Instacart like 4 times a week,
Nice.
like every single day. Obviously, I was like plowing through my gas, but like obviously that paid for like what I was doing, and I kind of enjoyed it. I mean, it was pretty good, and like, you know, I was doing that, and then like all January I was doing that. Then February I was doing that, and now like obviously it's March, and like I'm fine now, but like it was really humbling because like I never had like a time where I'm just like, oh, like I'm short because I've never been short before, and like I was like, I felt almost like ashamed, you know, because like it's really hard to talk about like your finances with people because in general, like it's really hard to talk about money.
Yeah.
Because like people either like, oh, like I hate this about money, or you know, and like people kind of have a negative perspective with money, you know, and I never really had that, but I'm just like, oh my god, like this is so bad, like I'm short, like, and it's like obviously like, when you have a partner you want to take them out to places, you want to do stuff, so like I had to tell my girlfriend I couldn't, and like to me, like I'm just like, oh my god, like I hate that I have to say that, and she's like, it's totally fine, like because she knows what was going on. And so like I really was really blessed in that time because like usually like there's some certain people that like are like, well, like what do you mean, like, you know, they get really like, and it's just like you gotta understand like the economy that we live in, specifically here, like it's just like you can't like you have to work 2 to 3 jobs to even go like get by, you know, and like it doesn't even cover your lifestyle. I can like literally move to Prague right now and like I could work one job and get a Vespa and I'm fine, like I'm living life. But here it's like you have to work multiple jobs to even like pay your rent, pay your car, then you have a little bit for groceries, and you're like, shit, like I can't even eat out, I can't even get myself $5 ice cream. And that's what was happening in December because I'm like, okay, like I can't even go out to get fucking chicken. And I hated that. Like I felt very like limited those 3 months, and I'm just like, this is horrible. And like I told my mom because I felt like really bad because I don't talk about like money at all, and I'm really good with my finances, but like obviously I got my hours cut, so like I had to try to find. I was applying for 3 months, and I got like no word. And I mean, you guys are hiring, but then I apply and you're not hiring. So anyways, to kind of conclude that, like it was really humbling because like I don't want to have to tell my girlfriend, oh, hey, we can't go on a date night because, like, I can't, you know? And she understood, you know, and I'm really blessed that she's very understanding. And we're doing better now. I mean, I've gotten 2 new internships. You know, I work at the gym part-time. So, like, I'm doing better. So I'm really happy that, like, God, like, was like, okay, like, you suffered enough here. Like, you know? So I think it's all about just, like, not being embarrassed to share things. And like obviously like money was my struggle the last 3 months, so that was something that I had to be like, okay, Danka, like you can't like have your pride so far up your ass. You have to like get off your stool and be like, okay, this is what's happening, deal with it, you move on and whatever. You know, because I was so like proud of like, oh, my finances are great and like I invest, you know, I was so proud, and like I'm not a college brokey, and then like basically was kind of broke, so I'm like, oh my god, like this is horrible, and like bitch, just like, you know what, I just had to like deal with it, you know. And like now obviously I'm better with my finances. I'm not like, I was traveling a lot last year, so now I'm like, okay, we can just travel another time, you know. So I think to kind of conclude that like that was my struggle with like money. So like because it can be humbling sometimes, you know, like you like go to like Fresh Kitchen and you're like, oh, card decline. That's embarrassing sometimes. It's like you hear the like the little beep thing,
or like wondering if it's gonna go through,
and you're like, fuck, I have like $15 in my credit, like let's hope this shit goes through. That was me like all December and January, and I'm just like, oh, I'd be so relieved because you said like the people like in the lines and stuff, and you're kind of like hovering over like the keypad. Like I used to do that, and then it'd be like, okay, I went through it. I'm like, oh,
like, but it's also like, that's so ridiculous. That's like so much of a universal experience. Like so much of us go through that. Nobody talks about it. And it's like, I don't think we should have to go through that. That's a whole different conversation about, you know, economy and politics and whatever. But I don't know, man. It like it's rough sometimes.
And the thing is, like, I want more people to talk about it. You know, like it's okay if you know $50. Okay, girl, me neither. Like, let's go like get like, I don't know. Let's go to the gas station and get some beef jerky and a soda. You know, that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to go to some like fancy place all the time. You know what I mean? Because like, I think that was like my worries. Like I was kind of worried because I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope my girlfriend doesn't think that like, you know, because some people, you know, because I've seen people like you know, like I was like, oh, like you can't take me out to dinner, like it's just like, do you like not know that like the
Well,
world?
your girlfriend's not like that.
Yeah. Thank God, because that's what I was my concern with. Because there's some people out there that like get really like
Okay.
upset.
I know what you mean,
Yeah, you know what I mean. So like I was really like grateful that like she understood because like the time and like the things that we're going through and like it was really like a time that I was very blessed that like she was there to support me. And it's nice when you have that support. Like it's okay, And then she like for Valentine's Day. I haven't shared this either, but for Valentine's Day,
we're getting a lot of secrets today.
I was paying because my car, if we're gonna get into number wise, which whatever, it's fine. My car is like about $1,000 a month.
Oh my God.
Yes, it's my fault for getting a new car, guys. It's my fault, but it's great. I don't have to pay for like maintenance or anything. It's great.
Oh, really?
That's okay. Yeah, that's my insurance, and then like it's like paying off because I finance it every month.
Okay, so wait, the 1,000 is like everything?
Yeah,
together?
So it's the insurance and the car, and I don't have to pay for like oiling, tires, like nothing, which is super great because I mean I'm paying $1,000 a month. You guys should be giving me that service for free anyway.
Yeah.
But that like I paid like $1,000 in the month, and I'm like, okay, like I don't really have a lot left. I took my sister the phone bill, so I pay her the phone bill. I'm like, shit, I have like $50 in my fucking account. Like on Valentine's Day, I want to go all out. So anyways, like I told her like my love, like it's gonna be kind of hard because like so then she was like, it's okay, and I'm like, and I was like kind of like a little sad and like I wanted to cry because I'm like, are you sure? Like and she was like, yeah, it's fine. And like so then like I like had some money saved, so I'm like, okay, I can get her this, and I got her this, like little things that she liked. And you actually went to a picnic at the park, and that was our way. Like it's budget friendly. I chat GBT'd $30 budget for picnic, and I was like, chat GBT, thank you, because like it was wonderful. We did like a little like DIY charcuterie. We walked around the park, watched a movie, and then she slept over. And it was like, okay, so it's not really about the material things. It's just the simplicity of it. Just you guys being together and just enjoying your time.
Well, it's the thoughtfulness too. Yeah. Because some people will be like, oh, I don't have money to take you out. I guess we can't do anything. Sorry. But it's also like there are plenty of things that you can do that doesn't cost money or costs less money. Yeah. I mean, like both me and my girlfriend, love you, babe, but we're both broke. But like we figure out a way to make things work. So for like Valentine's Day, we, it's always fun to romanticize the idea of getting all dressed up and like going somewhere fancy and everything. But like in reality, like what's the point of doing that? Like you're going to spend all this money. I get it, it's the experience, whatever, but we could have a better experience. Like I bought her a bunch of fake roses and like fake rose petals and like tea lights. And we made dinner at home. We had like a little DIY fondue at home, and I like in rose petals. I'm gonna like about to like show how much of a simp I am right now, but like in rose petals on the bed, I literally spelled out with like I love you, Jordan. Like and with like it was dark and like I had music going and like so the rose, like I think all of those materials were like not like it was under $10. And I wrote her like a nice like heartfelt note. Like that to me, I don't know about like other people, but like that to me is like more fun, more thoughtful, more romantic than like getting dressed up and going out to like a nice dinner.
I agree.
So it is not always about money. And I think it's also important to be with people and with a partner that does have that same kind of like outlook about it too. Like me and my girlfriend are both stressed about money, but like we try really hard to not let that like affect our relationship too much. Unfortunately it is like the number one reason for like relationship problems is like financial issues. So but I think it's very important to be aware of it and to like have that mutual respect and understanding that like it's okay. It's okay if you don't have money. Like in my brain too, I know it's not going to be forever because I am working towards a goal where, in 5, 10 plus years, I'll kind of be chilling like financially because I'm working towards that higher education. I'm putting myself in situations and trying to surround myself with people who are at that level. So then, eventually I'll be to that level and life will be good. I don't know if I'm romanticizing that too much or not, but like
I agree.
That's what's kind of keeping me going, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with like those negative things are temporary because I feel like we like sometimes even me, sometimes I catch myself doing it, but I get so focused on like, oh, like this is the problem, and I focus so much on the problem, yet there's a solution right behind the door.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's taking me so long to open the door and be like, oh, you're right there. But like, I feel like we're just so focused on those problems that like going back into what Zoe said again, like it's not that deep. Like it's really not. Like it's okay. Like if you have a shit month, okay, whatever. Everyone else is having a shit month. And the thing is, like, it's nice because I don't feel alone. Like it's like, oh, you're
dude, and
like,
I had no idea you were going through that, like in December.
And that's the thing, because that's
I was going through.
The funny thing is that like that's the thing again, like with social media, like you know what I mean? Because like you're posting all this stuff, and like and like you think, oh, she really has it together, and I'm like, I don't have it together, guys. Like I sometimes like I want to share it, and so I share it through this podcast, which is why I made this podcast, because I want people to understand that like you post like, oh, like gym day, and like you work out for 5 minutes and you go back home, or like, oh, you know what I mean, or like, oh, like look at me, I'm eating healthy, and you fucking talk about it the next day, like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like just be authentic, bro, and just like show your shit. Like it's okay if like you eat a cake by yourself, okay, whatever, like, you know what I mean? Or it's okay if you have like negative 100. Okay, it's not really okay, but let's work towards like paying it off, you know what I mean? But it's just like we all have horrible moments, but it doesn't define us. It doesn't. Like it's okay. We all struggle. Everyone struggles at some point in their life, but just to know that like you're gonna be successful, you're gonna be happy, you're gonna get your shit figured out, and you might not get it figured out now. Or, you know, I know overnight. I didn't. Yeah, it took me 3 months to finally get my job. Like, thank the Lord. And I've been like, the thing is, like, you just gotta trust yourself, and obviously, like, you know, trust the big man himself. I don't know what you guys believe in, but just trust it, and just like live life how you live it, and just take the time to just be kinder to yourself, and just relax a little bit, you know, because it's just like we're all so focused on all that stuff, yet we forget about like, you know, it's okay if you know, don't have a lot of money. It's okay if you fuck up. Like, it doesn't define who you are. And I feel like if you live your life with that like perspective of like, oh, like I'm this because of this, like, no, like you just shouldn't walk life like that.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of my whole life, both of my parents, especially my dad, he has always been like, we'll figure it out. There's a solution. Like, like his big thing is that there's a solution to every problem. He always quotes like Suits, you know, that show Suits with the lawyers, because in that show, like every episode is the same, but every episode, like something awful, horrible goes wrong. It seems like there's no way out. There's like no solution to fix the problem, but they do all these like just crazy things to find a solution. And like, because there is always a solution to every problem. Like you can figure it out. Like whenever I like call my dad up and I'm telling him all my problems, like I'm so stressed about this, I'm so like, what do I do? Like he's always like, we'll figure it out. And we have always figured it out, and I've always figured it out. And it's also like trusting yourself in that. Like, you figured it out that one time when you were really down bad, you're gonna figure it out this time when you're down bad, you know? Like, freak out for a little bit, do what you gotta do, get those emotions out, but like lock in, like, because nobody's gonna do it for you. You can have support, you can have those people by you who are gonna support you through that process, but at the end of the day, it is you. And like, trust in yourself that you're gonna figure it out. And that has honestly pulled me out of a lot of kind of like depressive kind of episodes or depressive kind of thinking, because if you're just like so bogged down in what your issue is, and you're like, oh man, like this is happening, like I don't know what to do, there's no way out, like you're gonna keep digging, you're gonna keep going farther down that spiral, and that doesn't serve, like, what is that doing? You're making yourself feel worse for what? Like, look at it from a different perspective, like figure out what the solution is, like, and just work towards it. Like, I feel so much better whenever I would go to my dad and my mom. I'll tell them my issue. I'd be freaking out. I was an anxious kid, but like, they would kind of tell me what to do and guide me, and now I'm able to kind of do that myself with their support still. Sometimes when I'm really down bad, we all reach out for support, or you should if you don't. But it's trusting yourself. It's gonna be okay. Like, it really is. So that's my thing. And I've been like pressing upon that with like my girlfriend too, because she is also a very anxious person, but I'm very understanding of that, so we work perfectly, because you know I am too. And she's always like freaking out about things, and I'm like, babe, like, it's okay. Like, freak out for a little bit. This does suck. This is a shitty situation. Like, I'm going to be for real with you. Like, I'm not saying that it's not, but like, you figured it out before when, you know, XYZ happened in the past. You're going to figure this out. Like, trust in that. Believe in yourself.
Yeah. I agree. That was nice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I mean, honestly, because it's just, I always feel like those, like, bad times are very temporary. Like, they really are very temporary. Like, trust. Like, I mean, like, 3 months, it was a shit show. I was, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was,
feels
like,
forever.
Yeah, it feels like such a long time. But, like, once you get over those hurdles, it's, like, you can finally, like, breathe again. And it's just really nice because you're like, oh, I did it. It wasn't that bad. Yeah, it was bad. But, like, okay, I got it. Like, I'm done. I got through it. It's like, okay, now you can, like, accomplish anything. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we should all walk into our lives. Like, it's okay if you struggle with this, but, like, you've made it. Now you're fine. Okay, now you're ready for the next thing that life is going to throw at you. So I think it's really important that we should all understand that. But I know we talked about, like, our struggles, this year. I kind of want to talk about, like, some of your wins that you've been really proud of.
My wins. Let's see. Tell me some about yours and maybe I'll get it.
I think, honestly, my biggest win truly is, like, getting a job. Like, getting my internships this year and, like, getting my job. Like, I think that's my biggest win because, like, I could have just sat there and, like, cried about everything. I mean, I kind of did. But, like, I could have just sat there and be like, oh, okay. No.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Like, my life is over. But, like, no, I got up because I'm like, fuck this. Like, I'm not going to, like, sit here and cry about it. Like, I cried and it's okay, but I'm going to go out there. I'm going to make shit happen. And, like, I applied. I was calling people. I would show up with my resume and be like, here, I want to work. I got rejections every time. I'm like, you know what? Like, rejection is fine. It's redirection. And rejection's redirection, guys.
That is so true.
Rejection is redirection. Because maybe, like, okay, it didn't work out for you. Okay, whatever. Somebody else might want you. So I kept pushing myself to apply. And then finally I got phone calls and I was like, oh, okay, so it's not that bad after all.
Right.
So I think that's probably my win. Just, like, getting uncomfortable with, like, going to people and saying, I need to work, please hire me.
Right.
I need money because I'm, like, not doing okay. And just putting yourself out there, trusting the process and believing in yourself. Like, you do all three of those things, it's all going to work out. And I think that's probably my biggest win. Like, just finding a job, being able to, pay my bills, do my stuff and, like, be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think mine is kind of the same as yours, but like after I graduated and it was exactly what I was looking for. I worked there for a while, busted my ass. I thought I did a really good job. But it didn't work out. And I kind of decided that my mental health was more important than me trying to prove anything to anybody, because I was at the point where I was crashing out. Like, genuinely, I was crashing out, and I was like, part of me was like, fuck it, like, I'm gonna show them that, like, I can do this, like, I'm, like, that I'm, the best, whatever. But then I was like, hold on a second, like, I already know that I'm the best.
Yeah.
I already know that I'm a good person. I have been exuding the type of person that I want to be this entire time. And that's a good person. It's a kind person. It's a smart person. It's a thoughtful person. It's a considerate person. Like, I know those things about me, and the situation I was in was making me question all those things.
Yeah.
And it was making me go crazy. It was making me question myself and who I knew that I was. And, like, once I kind of realized that, I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm literally choosing to be in a situation where it's putting my sense of self in question. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. So, like, I kind of, like, packed up and left one day. Like, I was like, screw this kind of thing. Like, I don't deserve this. So I didn't have a plan for after I did it, which was very scary, but I had people supporting me. Everybody knew, like, the situation and knew how I felt about it. And they supported me through. They were like, Zoe, like, my girlfriend, my mom, my dad, my friends, they were like, Zoe, like, whatever decision you decide to make, like, I'm behind you 100%. And that helped a lot. And I did what was best for me, and I left. And it was scary. Like, I didn't have a job for 2 weeks, and I was looking for a job, and I was getting rejected, or I wasn't getting calls back. And yeah, it wasn't the greatest time. And then one day I was telling my dad about all this, and this is slightly embarrassing. Nobody really knows this, but except for people close to me. I don't even know if I told
I don't
you.
think so.
So I was telling my dad all about this, and both
Mm.
my mom and my dad are the type where they're like, you don't have a job, you should be working 6 to 8 hours every day. You should be getting up early, doing nothing but trying to find a job, making
Mhm.
calls, calling people, putting
Mhm.
yourself out there, all that, 6 to 8 hours a day. And I was like, damn, I don't know if I can like do that. Like
Mhm.
that was like, I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
which was laziness on my part. I did get a little depressed during that time because
Mhm.
I didn't have a job. My mental health was kind of shot. Um, so anyways, I was telling my dad about all this, and he was like, you need to be calling places. And I was like, I know, I know, I know. And then he calls me one day and he goes, Zoe, like, please don't be mad. And I was like, oh, God, what did you do? And he was like, I called a psychology firm and like told them about you, like, and asked if they had any jobs. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? I didn't ask you to, why would you do that? That's insane. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, okay, but like, I got a hold of somebody and she was really nice and she wants you to call them back on Monday. And I was like, ugh. Like I was pissed off at him, but I was also like very grateful. Like
Yeah.
that is something I should have done.
Mhm.
I'm very aware I have the privilege of having such an involved father for him
Mhm.
to do something like that for me now. I called Monday. They wanted to offer me the job. They wanted me to come in for an interview. The pay was lower than what I wanted, and I was like, listen, I can't do it for this amount. Like I think they offered me like $15.50, and I was like, I can't live on $15.50 part-time. Like I'm sorry, it doesn't work out. Kind of like a Sia thing. Like I was like, thank you. Also on that first phone call, I had to like basically give an elevator pitch of myself because I only had like a couple minutes to like kind of get her attention and like get myself in for an interview. So like that was also like nerve-wracking to like have to like pump myself up, like I'm a hard worker, you know, I just graduated, I really want to learn, like that kind of thing. She didn't give me the $15.50. I was like, okay, sorry, it didn't work out, like bye, I need more money kind of thing. I said it more professionally than that. She calls me back a couple of days later, is like, you know, I talked to, you know, the CEO or whoever's in charge of, you know, payments and financials and stuff, and is like, we can go up to 18. I was like, okay, that's more doable. Like, all right, that sounds good. So I went in for an interview and I got the job. And I've been working there. It has been great. I cannot explain to you how nice everybody is, how encouraging everybody is, how it makes me feel it's like a night and day difference, you know, and my mental health is so much better now. And so that was a huge win for me. You know what I mean? I did something super uncomfortable, but I knew that was best for me. And that's extremely hard to do. Like, it probably wasn't my smartest decision. I was employed for 2 weeks. I understand that everybody has like the luxury and privilege of being able to be unemployed for 2 weeks. I did get help. But, you know, another door opened. I'm somewhere where I'm so much happier, you know. And it's just everything happens for a reason. You know, I was meant to go through that time of my life because I had never been through it. I have never dealt with rejection. I have never dealt with somebody not being very friendly to me and being kind of mean to me in like a workplace setting. I had never had like a job, like a grown-up job before, you know? And I was going through all of that, and now I'm somewhere where it's a lot better, but I'm so grateful looking back for that hard time because it showed me something that I had never experienced before, and that unfortunately a lot of people do experience still, but that's a whole different conversation. But that was a huge win for me. That entire process, like these past like 5-6 months, have been a huge win for me overall because of the bad stuff and the good stuff. So yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I remember when Zoe told me that she got like a new job, I was so ecstatic. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I know like that was a really hard time, like just like the whole process of like working there, and then like, you know, it was a lot. So like I'm really happy that like you found you found your job, bro. It's awesome. And it's really about the culture, like the people that you work with. So I'm really glad that you like found like your space and you're, you know, working there, and it's good.
Yes, I'm so excited, and they're happy to have me there, and they tell me all the time how happy that like it's amazing, honestly.
Awesome.
So I'm in a much better place than I was, but you have to go through times like that sometimes to get to a place that you want to be.
Yeah.
And you have to trust in that process, like we were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So,
for sure. So we're kind of nearing towards the end
okay.
of this podcast episode, but I wanted to kind of have you leave something for the people who are listening. I mean, you said so many incredible things this time that you've been here, and I kind of want you to share something some advice that you'd give to anybody that's watching this.
All right, give me a sec to think about
No, you're
that.
good.
I have to like cut it out.
You're good.
But let me think. Any like advice? I would say everybody goes through things, and you may not think it or know it, or they don't show it. That kind of rhymed, but everybody does, and it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to reach out for help. And it's like, think about if your friend was really, really struggling and they never told you about it and they just sat with it silently. Think about like how much you would want to be there for them. And that's how the right people in your life want to be for you.
Mm-hmm.
People that love you, people want to be there for you. They want to be there through those hard times. They love you. Like, trust in that. Like, it's okay. Like, reach out for help. Like, talk to people about what you're going through, because you're not going to get anywhere if you don't. You're going to be stuck in the same cycle, doing the same things. It's really scary, but try to push yourself to step off of that, step out of that cycle.
Yeah.
And like, even if things are still bad, at least they're bad in a different way, and you're making some kind of progress.
No, honestly, I love that, bro. That's awesome. And honestly, like, I learned a lot of things too, actually, talking to you. That was really nice. I mean, I'm always learning things from people when I talk to them on this podcast, so it's really nice that you've had very inspirational, insightful things to share. So thank you again, everyone. This was Zoe. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing all of your knowledge, your inspiration, advice for people who are either in their early 20s, mid-20s, late 20s. I mean, guys, it's never too late, honestly. There's so much time for you to get everything done and to just live your life. I mean, seriously, those are some things that I'm still also working on. But I think it's all about how we talked about earlier, just enjoying the process, believing in yourself, and just trusting that everything's going to be okay. So that being said, thank you so much for watching the episode. I appreciate your support and your love. We've been slowly growing, which has been super fun. So I'm really happy about that. Just continue to share with people who, need that inspiration, need, some enlightenment, need that support. I think it's really great that we're all coming together and building that community of 20-year-olds who need, that push. I think it's really important to be around people who also are very like-minded, who also need reassurance. It's so important to have that support. So thank you again for listening to this episode. And if you need someone who, wants to hear this, share it, like it, subscribe, whatever you have to do. And as always, make sure to eat well, stay hydrated, live your life. Don't stress too much, please. And have a great rest of your week, wherever it is, time zone that you're watching this. Have a good day. Take care. And this is Driving with Ananka, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.